So today we're going to talk about real estate investing in Metro Atlanta. But before I get to the neighborhoods that you must be aware of, I want to look into the camera here and do a little bit of mind reading. So you're interested in real estate investing in the Atlanta area, and you want to know where the up and coming neighborhoods are, right? You want to know what the neighborhoods are where you can get good cash flow with strong appreciation in an area with good schools and low crime, where the tenants aren't going to be difficult, and you can buy a light rehab for a reasonable price, fix it up, and pull some of your equity that you created out. Did I get close? Well, if I did, and you're wondering how I knew all that, it's because in my career, I have had hundreds of investors reach out asking me which neighborhoods are going to deliver on all those things I just mentioned. And unfortunately, the majority of these investors never end up closing a great deal in the Atlanta area. Why? Because they're asking the wrong questions. And even worse, they're looking for a neighborhood that's going to deliver objectives that are actually conflicting with one another in many ways. Go back and think about the descriptors I just gave you. You want a neighborhood that's up and coming with good schools? You're looking for an established neighborhood with low crime that's going to significantly cash flow? You want an established area where you can affordably buy a home that only needs a light rehab to flip? Now, I'm not trying to be rude and I'm not judging anyone, but if you just sit and think, no neighborhood is going to deliver on all of these objectives. And usually if you are looking for all of these things simultaneously, it's because you haven't taken the time to sit down and plan out what your goals and personal investment philosophy are. And so at the end of the day, all you really know is that you want a good deal, which of course, all of us want a good deal, but a good deal does not look the same to every type of investor. For instance, I work with investors who love Section 8. They love purchasing in gentrifying areas, rehabbing a property, and putting a Section 8 tenant in so they can get a consistent paycheck from the government. I have other investors who would never purchase Section 8 properties in those areas. They want to be in extremely established areas that may cash flow a little bit less, but they're going to be a very safe place to store their money for a period of time. These two investors are not going to be looking in the same neighborhoods because they have different objectives, they have different risk tolerance, and they have different levels of involvement that they desire in this process. If you take nothing else away from this video, hear this. If you don't take the time to sit, think, research, and decide what you want your buy box to be, you're going to have an extremely difficult time identifying and closing on a great deal. And unfortunately, if you do close on something, there's a good chance it's not going to perform in the way that you wanted because you never defined what you actually wanted. So I know you came here to learn more about the Atlanta area and hear which neighborhoods I'm crazy about investing in. But before we get into that, let's talk about how to define your buy box so that you can actually be effective, communicate your goals to the people on your team, and close deals. Because guess what? If you haven't defined your buy box, then you don't know if Atlanta is the right market for you. For example, I have so many out-of-state investors reaching out to me wanting to purchase in the Atlanta area because they're aware of how fast the metro is growing and they're bullish on its long-term growth, which I am too. But here's the deal. If you're an investor in California and you want to have cash flowing rental properties in Atlanta, but you're not very familiar with any of the areas because you haven't lived or spent much time here, you don't have any connections or network to help you accomplish what you're looking to do here, and more than anything else, you don't really want to be super involved, right? You've got a full-time job and you can dedicate some time to your investing goals, but you don't really have the time to oversee a flip project from another state. You don't have the time or desire to do your own direct-to-seller marketing campaign in this area, and you definitely don't want to manage any of the properties that you're going to own here. Which again, all of that is fine, but the reality is that Atlanta is a fantastic place to own real estate, but an extremely difficult place to find great deals, as is the case in many other major cities across the country. So if you're a passive investor only concerned with cash flow, you don't want to be involved in major rehabs or direct-to-seller marketing campaigns, and you have a limited amount of capital, just calling a realtor in Atlanta and saying, help me find a good deal is probably not the right approach. For instance, did you know that turnkey rental companies are a thing? These are companies that buy homes in cheaper markets like the Midwest. They get them from wholesalers, rehab themselves, they put a tenant in and have a property management company in place, and they sell that property to you and outline exactly what the return projections are in terms of cash flow. Again, it already has a property manager in place. It's already a renovated property, so your deferred maintenance is going to be low for a few years. And these properties always cash flow and are at much lower price points than anything you're gonna find in the Atlanta area, unless you had really put in the time, energy, and effort to come here, be here, and do all the hard work that it takes to really find an incredible deal in the Atlanta area. So why are we really looking at Metro Atlanta if you're in another state? There are definitely cheaper markets. You're already out of state, so you can look at other states besides Georgia. There's gonna be cheaper markets with better cash flow. And so honestly, unless you're very familiar with the Atlanta area, maybe you have a home here, you have family here, you're here very often, then you probably want to reconsider if this is the right market for you. But again, we don't know until you define your personal investment philosophy and your buy box. All right, we are going to talk about neighborhoods. I know I titled this in a really enticing way. I was going to give you some juicy information about local neighborhoods, and I am going to give you some information. We're going to tie it to what your goal may be. There's a lot of different ways to invest in real estate, and rather than just pick out, the 5 craziest gentrifying areas in Metro Atlanta, I'm going to go through some of the main categories of real estate investing and which neighborhoods I would probably pursue for each of those categories. So number 1, flipping. And a lot of people think it's not a good market to flip. In Metro Atlanta right now, I actually think it's a very good opportunity to flip. There's a severe lack of inventory, and quality renovations in the right areas are absolutely flying off the shelf. Now, again, I'm not saying it's going to be easy to find a deal with the right margins for you to flip, but if you can find that deal, selling it should be the easy part. And the 2 areas that I would recommend if you're looking to flip would probably be East Cobb and North Gwinnett. The main reason being the quality of the public schools. And as a realtor, I can tell you, when you have a quality product, a fantastic renovation, a really nice house, in an area with the quality of schools like in East Cobb and North Gwinnett, those listings are absolutely going to fly off the shelves, and in many instances, there's going to be major bidding wars for those properties. Now, when I say North Gwinnett, I mean areas like City of Beaufort, Sugar Hill, which is a fantastic suburb. Now, you can definitely successfully flip homes in areas that don't have high quality public schools, but as a realtor who has helped many investors sell their flips, I promise you, at least on the sales side, the easiest place to do this is going to be in the areas with high quality public education. Now, what if you're looking to house hack? These are some of my favorite clients to work with because they really have skin in the game in the sense that they're going to be here and live in this property. So it's just a flat out easier task to accomplish than working with an investor across the country who's never been here before and doesn't know what they want. And the beautiful thing about house hacking is you can do this a million different ways. You can do a very traditional house hack where you buy a duplex and live on one side. You can buy a big house with a bunch of rooms, live in one of them, rent them out by the room. You can find a home with a finished basement and kitchen and live in either the upstairs or downstairs, even if it's not technically a duplex. And a lot of the answers to, which of those you pursue are going to come down to what your exit strategy is. You may want something that is actually zoned as a multifamily property, or you may not care about that. It depends on what your exit strategy is. But one area I would mention for house hacking in the Metro Atlanta area would be Mableton. And my reason for saying this is because for whatever reason, there are a lot of duplexes that come up in the Mableton market. And it's not as an expensive market as areas I just mentioned that have really good public schools. And a lot of people who are looking to house hack are looking to reduce their expenses. They don't have an insane budget. So this pairs well with that. The other good thing about Mableton is that it's just outside the city to the west. If you're working in the city or you're a student in the city, there's going to be a very easy commute coming from the west side into town. And right now this area is in a good spot. It's fairly safe, but it's not super high end. It's growing tremendously, and it's surrounded by other really good neighborhoods like Smyrna, and even Vinings isn't too far. Now, the truth is, for house hacking, you got to let your life situation dictate where you're looking, especially with the Atlanta traffic. If you're going to school somewhere or commuting to work somewhere, you probably want to try to find a house hack that's a very easy commute to whatever that is. But I did want to mention Mableton because I think it's a good place to potentially find an affordable duplex with an easy commute into town, and it's growing tremendously. All right, let's talk about rentals, right? There's long-term rentals and short-term rentals. Again, you could buy a long-term rental anywhere. I'm very bullish on pretty much the entire of Metro Atlanta. So it doesn't mean you only need to look in these areas, but I would be looking long-term if you're planning to hold this property for, 15, 20 years around the Beltline on the west side, which I talk about all the time on my channel. So these would be neighborhoods like West End or Mosley Park or Ashview Heights or Westview. These are neighborhoods clustered around the West Side Trail of the Atlanta Beltline. The Beltline's having an explosive effect in these areas. A lot of businesses are coming in, and a lot of young buyers are coming in that are priced out of the Beltline on the east side. And I really think in 10, 15, 20 years, the area around the West Side Trail of the Beltline is going to be really expensive and really desirable because there's going to be a lot of great amenities around there, and anything close to the Beltline is going to be extremely popular because in a way it puts the city at your fingertips. Now, if you're doing a short-term rental like an Airbnb, first of all, keep in mind this is a very active investor approach unless you hire a company to take on all of the marketing and turnover. But typically, it's not a bad idea to be around an airport, especially when you have a major airport like Hartsfield-Jackson. So I would point out East Point as an area potentially to have a short-term rental. And I like this area because you can benefit from the market of people that work in this industry, right? Whether it's flight attendants or pilots, anyone working at the airport or Delta, which has a hub here. There's a whole little ecosystem that revolves around the airport, and it doesn't have to be those people. It could be just people who travel frequently, right? And the good thing about our airport is that it's inside the perimeter, so it's easy to get to the attractions that someone would want visiting Atlanta. But it's not in a super expensive area, so you don't have to necessarily break the bank to find something that's going to work great as an Airbnb. Now, another option for short-term rental would probably be something closer to downtown. These are where your event spaces are. These are where a lot of your popular attractions are located nearby: the aquarium, the zoo, Mercedes-Benz, High Museum. These are in different neighborhoods, but if you buy a short-term rental somewhere near downtown, the people who book with you are going to have access to all the most popular things to do in the city. So you could look at downtown itself, although most of those are going to be attached options with rent restrictions. I would look at an area like Summerhill, which is really up and coming. It's got a nice, dense, walkable stretch along Georgia Ave. There's lots of events that go on at GSU, the Old Turner Field. You're going to be close to Mercedes-Benz. You're going to be close to downtown. You're going to be close to all the popular inner core neighborhoods like Grant Park and Inman Park. It's not far from the airport. It's not far from Buckhead. It's centrally located to everything that you would need. And by the way, this area is transforming really quickly, so I expect strong appreciation here for years to come. And the last category I have that I wanted to mention would be multifamily, but unfortunately I don't have one neighborhood for multifamily because these properties pop up all over the place. Now, I mentioned Mableton. We do see areas where multifamily properties pop up consistently for whatever reason. I mean, it's obviously because of the zoning laws at some point in the past, but Mableton, I mentioned, would be a great place to look for a duplex. Conyers is also another area to the east of the city where there's a lot of multifamily properties available, but you're really going to want to chase the deal. If you're looking for multifamily, you're doing a bigger purchase, you want larger gross income with as many units as possible. And so there are going to be a lot of factors that affect where you look, including what kind of tenant that you're looking to service and what your risk tolerance is. But the reality is that multifamily properties pop up all over the place randomly in the Atlanta area. So this is going to be more about the financials of whichever deal you're looking at, and then looking at the area and making sure it fits your buy box. But there you go. I gave you neighborhoods for each of the major approaches to real estate investing in Atlanta that would make sense according to what you're trying to do. Of course, there are many other areas of Metro Atlanta that are fantastic places to own real estate. But just to reiterate, if you're looking to purchase real estate in the Atlanta area because you heard from a cousin it's blowing up and it's a great place to do it, that's fine. And there's nothing wrong with that, and you can do it, but you got to take one step at a time. And step one is, researching, educating yourself, and then defining your personal investment philosophy and subsequently your buy box. And once you have that, you have a blueprint for which market to pursue, what kind of team you need to reach out to and put together, and how you're going to create a consistent system of deal flow to accomplish the goals that you set out to accomplish. So I hope that helped. I hope that provided you value. I really appreciate you watching. You can always reach out to me if you want to work together. Do me a favor and like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time.